Welcome back to another episode. I'd like to do some thinking with you on our internal financial system. And this could turn into a series, actually, of podcasts as I explore this. The idea of the internal financial system hit me when I was preparing to speak to the IFS conference in 2023. And ironically, IFS, which is Internal Family Systems, fits neatly with the idea of the internal financial system. And I was so intrigued with that I went ahead and trademarked it and didn't run into any resistance, which is very odd when you're trademarking anything. And it goes along nicely with the idea of the inner company that was developed in the co-authored book I wrote, Coupleship Inc., which is a do-it-yourself financial therapy guide for couples. And in that, we introduced this idea of this interior company, this internal company, and all the various financial parts sitting at a boardroom, mostly young, mostly kids. Kathleen Christofferson, who is our editor, came up with this visualization of one kid where his feet didn't even reach the floor, which I thought was a powerful visual. And with a couple, the melding of these two very can be immature, young, I'll say very young companies, like a merger, and all the problems fraught with that when you had enough problems within the internal company as it was. So it's playing off that idea of we all have an internal financial system. So these are money-related parts. They don't have to be parts that only do money. They could be other parts of ourselves that are also involved in the financial making decisions. But I'll keep it simple with just becoming aware of the financial parts within ourselves. And I don't think I've ever seen this done, and that's not surprising since I'm one of a handful of IFS practitioners, some certified, some not, that are actually applying money to the internal financial system as such. So I thought a discussion of these parts might be helpful, and where I'm going with this is I want to go to an episode where I'll do a guided meditation and give you a chance to really discover one of your financial parts and really have a conversation with it. But first I thought a little setup would be helpful where we can just discuss these parts. I did a podcast some time ago on the 8 C's and 5 P's of the internal financial system. And you can maybe scroll back and find that episode. That can be a starter for ideas and trailheads as to where maybe the internal financial system is operating well, and some instances and areas where maybe it's not operating well. So this is more of a discussion of these internal financial parts. I think that we could probably agree, that IFS practitioners would agree, that within IFS there are some common parts within us. And there's an evaluation that you can take that will tell you the health of some of these internal internal financial parts. This is called the IFS scale, and you can find this at ifs-institute.com/research/IFS-scale. And you can take this on your own. I don't know if there's any charge. I don't think there's any charge for this. Anyway, if there is, oh yeah, there is. It's $10, and it's worth it. I love to give this to new clients, financial therapy clients, as we begin therapy, and then give it down the road sometime. I took this about a year into my IFS journey, and then I took it unknowingly 3 years later. I kind of forgotten about it, and it was really telling as to the progress that I made. It was very satisfying. And for me, IFS, I made more progress in self-criticism than with any modality, anything that I had ever tried. And this particular eval confirmed that yes, indeed, I had made some progress in that. So here's some parts that are typically, what I want to say, normal parts to have in a system. One would be a pleasing part, or an abandoned part, anxious or pessimistic parts, dissociating. I called my part that just would dissociate me in a snap, the wall, because it would just come in and take me out, and still can, but he is in a much better place today. There's exiles in general. There are angry, raging parts. They actually refer to this as raging parts. Self-critical parts, self-harming parts, and then, of course, within all of this, self-energy. But these are some of the things that this particular evaluation tests for. So I think just about everybody has a self-critical part. So what can we know when it comes to our internal financial system? What type of financial parts do we have that could be ubiquitous? And this is not an attempt to label all of the parts, nor is it an attempt to suggest that you have all these parts. This is just maybe to get you started on an inner exploration of what financial parts do you have. I know for me, I work best off of a dirty page. And so if somebody just said, oh, what type of internal financial parts do you have, Rick? That's when the wall would step in, a whiteout like the old television. And I would not necessarily be so present, having been, quote, put on the spot. So I say these because when I hear something, I can then take inventory of myself, saying, oh, how does that land for me? Oh, that does make sense, or it doesn't make sense. So let's start. I've broken these down into about 9 different groups of parts, financial parts. Spending parts, earning-related parts, risk-related parts, awareness and avoidance parts, generous parts, shame and justification, scarcity and abundant parts, and control-related parts. So let's start with the spending-related parts. I think almost everybody has this financial part, who's the spender. And the spender is that part of us that enjoys spending, can love the instant gratification of spending, uh, can often be spending for pleasure or status. This would be a part that shows up in money status money scripts. And this is a part that we can find. You can find just by doing a body scan and saying, yeah, do you have a spending part? And as I do this, that might be a great exercise, is just to scan your body and see, is that a part that you can locate? Is that a part that you can sense? Is that a part that you have an image of, that you can connect with in any way? What type of emotions does that spending part bring up? I can imagine in some internal financial systems, the spending part could be associated with a lot of excitement, and joy, and maybe adrenaline and possibility, while in others that spending part might be associated with fear or shame or guilt. And those could be other parts giving judgment on that spending part. So it takes some work to kind of sort it all out. But there's a part generally in all internal financial systems that likes to spend. And I've said this before, spending is necessary. It's necessary in a balanced financial system. It's necessary in a healthy financial system, because without spending, there's no conversion of the function of money, the energy that money represents, the storehold of value, into meeting our needs, into converting the money into support for us. So spending is necessary to a balanced or a mature or a healthy financial system. But sometimes our spender can really blend and take over because of money scripts that it has, early trauma that it's protecting, a woundedness to try and solve or soothe, to try and soothe a younger part of us that was really wounded, that the spender takes on the idea that if I can spend, if I can get new stuff or whatever the spending represents, that can soothe the pain, the hurt of this vulnerable part. Now, I'm probably getting way ahead of myself, but so be it. So we have a spending part. Oftentimes we have an emotional spender, which can be different from the instant gratification and spending for pleasure or status. This part can use money as, to what I've alluded, a coping mechanism for emotional needs. It can spend, for example, I've given stories on the podcast before of clients I've worked with that when money hits their checkbook, it's got to go. And in two of these cases, these folks, when they were kids, money disappeared from their account. Money was taken by their parents from their account for various reasons, in some cases over a period of years. And they developed a money script that money is to be spent. And money is to be spent, so I'm not hurt when it disappears. So I'm not hurt when I go to my savings account or my piggy bank and there's nothing there. So that's a good example of the emotional spending part that is trying to protect that really hurt, vulnerable part of this person as a child. With that trauma, my money's gone. and in some cases not knowing where it went. And in that case, I remember, right, the parents went bankrupt and just everything was taken associated with the family, and there was no explanation to the child of what happened to the money. Another spending related part could be the live life for today part. Focuses on present enjoyment today, experiences today, often disregarding future needs. So again, a lot of these parts, remember, in IFS, every part has a good intention. We're not trying to eliminate parts. We're not trying to bully parts. We are first just recognizing the part for the job and the role that it does in the system. And we'll get to learning about those parts and how to do that later, maybe in another episode. If we have spender parts, most of us will have a saving part, a part that likes to save. And not everybody's going to have necessarily a part that likes to save. You probably, if you have parts that don't like to save, that like to spend, there's probably a part that judges the saving, that feels constrained or fearful about saving. So, or criticizes the saving because perhaps the spending part will feel constrained. So you may not be able to identify a part that enjoys saving, but you may be able to identify a part that feels it ought to or it should be saving. And of course, those are the should and the ought words that we always want to pay attention to. Then there's one that protects against scarcity. This part could fear any spending or fear any hoarding of resources to it wants to hoard resources. It doesn't fear them, it wants to hoard resources to guard against future loss. And then there can be a planning part, a part that strategizes budgets, wants to plan for long-term financial balance in the system. Now it can oftentimes overstep, like a lot of our parts do, and become extreme in its planning because it can fall into the money script that there will never be enough. We can't plan enough. But typically there is a planner involved. So those are some spending related parts. This is not an inclusive list. I'll get done with this podcast, or I'll be writing a column maybe on this, and I'll go, oh, I missed this part, I missed that part, and then there is this part. So this is not a comprehensive list. These are just some internal financial system parts to kind of prime the pump. Then we have earning related parts. One part that I can relate to is the hardworking part. And this part, this could be something we call a legacy burden. We'll get into those later, where you learned that hard work was just something to do that was glorified in the family. But typically the hardworking part will tie self-worth to productivity, to being productive, and earning money. So this part will strive to earn more through effort. I've said before, one of my main money scripts is you've got to work hard to make money. And like all money scripts, that's true in some cases, and it's false in other cases. All money scripts are partially true. Another part would be an avoidant earning part, a part that feels overwhelmed by work or financial goals. The hard worker might be energized by financial goals, where the avoidant earner doesn't even want to talk about financial goals. Would be given to procrastinating or disengaging from work. There can be a dreaming part that can fantasize about effortless wealth, that can fantasize about not working and having experienced big wins or a lot of money coming up, all with minimal effort. That would be part of the you've got to work hard for money script. That another one is you don't have to work hard for money, that sometimes the money can show up. And this would be this part's most wonderful fantasy, is I don't have to work and the money just shows up. And then you have a realist part that's very practical, focuses on practical earning, consistent work, realistic strategies, who is not given to emotion. We probably think emotion is bad. You've got to be practical. The realist. And some of you are probably thinking, how can a realist part be a part? Isn't that what we're given to? And that would be definitely a belief about money avoidance scripts, is you've got to be practical. Well, there's huge benefit in acknowledging reality. And sometimes a practical part of us can be practical to the point of excluding any emotional truth or any emotionality. So that's what we're talking about here. Then I think we got time to move on to risk-related parts. It's not uncommon to have a risk taker in the system, a part that thrives on high-stake decisions, seeks excitement and potential rewards. And of course, if you're familiar with IFS, mostly what we're talking about here are a lot of protectors, a lot of managers, right? There's wounded parts that these parts are taking care of in every case. But this risk-taking part can just thrive on this excitement and the potential, looking for opportunity. Kind of similar as a gambler. A gambler is a little more impulsive sometimes than a risk taker, not necessarily. Often doesn't really fully weigh the consequences. But the gambler is much more emotionally charged in not really weighing consequences. Then there's a part that will avoid all financial risks. It will prioritize stability and safety above growth. So you would see this, for example, in a person that would want to be in CDs for the long term. That's certificates of deposit. They want money in the bank. They're going to avoid any possibility of loss. And this part can be polarized, and we'll talk about polarized parts in another session with that risk-taking part. And then we have a cautious investing part oftentimes that will carefully assess the risks, still is seeking stability and reliability and growth. You can be given to procrastination, kind of the searching for the word analysis paralysis. Can really get a little bit caught up in doing too much investigation. So that's a little bit of a start on our exploration of the various parts of our financial system. And I'm going to stop here. Next time we'll get into the other another 5 categories of parts. After that, we'll talk about some legacy burdens that our parts can have, and then finally we will get to a guided meditation where, becoming aware of these parts, you can start working with those parts. So you just might want to sit with this list that I've given you. Maybe you've written some of these down, and just see if you can find any of these parts in your body. Where do they reside? How do they feel? What's the sensation? Is there a tightness and openness? Are they prickly, smooth? Is there any image to them? Any emotions that are attached to them? And just kind of start to get to know them. And if possible, bring curiosity to them. This is not you. You are not a hard worker or a spender or a saver. This is a part of you that functions in that capacity. There's none of these parts that are wrong. All of these parts have a good intention. They may have burdens. They may have extreme beliefs. They may be showing up in ways today that don't serve you as an adult, but they're ways that did serve you as a child. So just try and bring some curiosity to these parts, and then we will pick this up again in our next session. So take care, and thanks for listening.